Thanks for joining us here on the Retirement Income Source. I know you can be doing a lot of things today, but you're going to spend your hour, hopefully, here with us on the show. And our goal is to make sure that the information that you receive on the show is very beneficial for you and yours. It's all about investing for income. That's what this show is all about. In other words, if somebody said, what is Apple? They think of iPhone. What is Amazon? Well, at first it used to be about books. Now it's all about what you receive by mail or delivery to your home. And it's the same way it is in what we specialize in investing for income. And I'm talking about real income the old-fashioned way. I'm Tim Sparks, and today we're going to be talking a lot about changing lanes. And I will further explain what I mean here a little bit. I hopefully got your curiosity going. This show is sponsored by Sparks Financial Group right here in the heart of the Bluegrass, Lexington, Kentucky, a financial firm. And again, we focus on pre-retirees that want to make sure that when they go into retirement, that everything ends well. Because at the end of the day, if we're going to go through a tunnel that we're unfamiliar with, we hope we got a flashlight. It's the same way here. We want to make it through the other end, and so we can see where we're going. And also for the retiree, you want it also to end well. But here's what I'm going to tell you. You're the one that's responsible for doing that, not the financial advisor that you're working with. Yes, financial advisors are supposed to be giving you advice. But the question is, are they giving you the advice that you're really looking for? Or how do you know that your money is going to last longer than you? That should be a question that we all have. And this show is committed of showing you what philosophies are being utilized today. If you call 20 financial advisor offices and ask them that you need a retirement plan, they're always going to come up with one. Why? Because they need your money to be able to make a living off of that money, because that's what they do, and there's a lot of advisors out there that deserve that. But at the same time, are they really going to provide you with the lifestyle you're looking for? Because see, when you pay a fee, it's always an issue in the absence of value. At the end of the day, it's really our responsibility. You see, we're in a yo-yo economy. You are on your own. And you should be to some degree. I don't know what it is, but a lot of times people are oblivious when it comes to how the markets work. I mean, in general, they know they go up and they know they go down. But they're thinking that all financial advice is all created equal. But when you go out and you meet with 20 different financial advisors, or 10 or 30 or ever how confusion you want to make it, they're all going to have a retirement plan. The question is how are they generating the income? Because income is probably, I'm going to take a guess, is probably the highest priority going into retirement, because there's 3 phases, believe it or not. Actually, there's 4 phases. The first phase is the one that got you to the point where you got resources to generate income. And that's whenever you reach a certain milestone in your 401ks or your IRAs, whatever it is that you saved and worked hard and scrimped for and even sacrificed for 30, 40, or longer years. And that's called the accumulation phase. The accumulation phase is really is probably, in my opinion, the easiest phase, because that's the one where, if you never accumulated any assets, you still had income coming in, so it really didn't matter. But you saved because when the last stages of life are the most critical, because now you don't have that same energy to be able to generate that income as you once did. And I can tell you, most of us if we're not careful, we can underestimate that, because at the end of the day, as we get older, it gets more harder to be able to do the things as we did when we were very young. We were more ambitious. Now we're wiser, but just that, more ambitious when we were young, and a lot of times we made a lot of mistakes. But when it comes to the next stage in life, this is whenever you go into retirement. It's the first 10 or 15 or 20 years, depending on your health, depending on longevity. If you have longevity, it could be 15 or 20 years. In other words, from maybe age 65 to even as late as age 85. I said that correct. And the reason why age 65 to 85 for longevity is because by 2050, I was reading an article, which is only 26 years away or 25 years away, that there's going to be more than 1,100,000-year-olds by that time. Why? Because we're taking care of ourselves. But that's not the point. The point is to help you to understand when you go into retirement, you're going to spend the most money in this phase. Because this is where you've got your bucket list of things you want to do. At the end of the day, I was thinking about the goals and stuff that people tell me about when they step into retirement. They want to meet those goals, and they're going to meet those goals because they had intentions when they went into retirement of the things they wanted to do. Good for them. Because sometimes I find people leave retirement just because they're tired of their job or maybe they were forced to. So when it comes to goals, you got to have building blocks. In other words, there's a commission report we have there that helps people to be able to know what those are. And so that way you can be best prepared for how much income you need in the highest spending phase of retirement. And this commission report is, again, building blocks of retirement. And we will send that to you, email it or mail it, whichever you prefer, if you call 888-930-1080. Again, it's 888-930-1080. And again, we will mail it or email it to you. It's a really great way to be able to determine what that is. Because this is really the first problem that I find most people to do, is they fail to plan. So sometimes they will plan to fail because knowing those numbers up front, and you need to find somebody to help you to find those numbers, not just give you a 2 or 3 page budget sheet and let you try to figure that on your own. Some people will do that, but some people I find really don't know how to do that, or they procrastinate and don't do anything at all. So you got to have some kind of way to be able to know. We do a top-down analysis, which is much easier than any of that, because it's the current lifestyle that you are already in, the one before you transition into retirement. It's the amount of money you're already spending. Because if you already know how that feels like, because you're spending maybe, about 168 hours in a week. You're spending 40 to 60 hours a week working, which makes up, maybe about a third, a little bit more than that, just working. So you get time off, you go take vacations, you're probably doing that with the current income, you're not having to reach into any resources, and so forth. And so that is, the top-down analysis helps people, and so something I learned a long time ago, help people to be able to assess how to do that in a much easier perspective. And most people, once they go through the process, which takes less than 5 minutes to do, it's a lot better than looking at a budget sheet trying to figure out what my expenses are, even though some people are okay with that, maybe more detailed people. But most people prefer somebody to be able to help them with this, and this is what I find the easiest exercise. So stage 1 is really probably the time you're going to be able to enjoy your wealth. And I was thinking about really my own. I was looking at, as a matter of fact, if you come into my personal office here in Lexington, I actually look over and I'm seeing a lot of these photos of trips that we've already made. Well, I still want to do those kind of trips when I go into retirement. In order to be able to do those trips, I got to be able to have the right resources to be able to get me there. And not only that, when I go, I don't want to be stressed out while the markets are maybe going down. Some of us don't realize that the markets can be down if we wind up going on a trip. I got a client right now that's going to be going to Australia here in about a month, and New Zealand and Hawaii. In other words, they're going to be doing they're going to be making several stops in a 30-day time frame. And so I can tell you, what's it cost? What's it going to cost to do something like that? They're going to be spending several days in Hawaii. Hawaii's not cheap. The airplane tickets are not cheap. Matter of fact, we have clients that are doing so well, and some clients are maybe, maybe not using income like they use, or the methods like they should be. We help them to understand that if you did invest for income, why not go first class? I don't know about you. Have you ever went by first class and wished you could be sitting there, because you see how comfortable it is, but a lot of people don't think they can afford it. Some people, just choose not to ride it because they feel like ride first class because they feel like they're wasting money. Well, at the end of the day, if we're turning down higher income, money that we're leaving on the table, we could have otherwise been able to use that money for some of those trips. So anyway, that's again people's prerogative on what they want to do when it comes to being in retirement and then having a choice of riding first class. I've rode first class several times. I don't ride first class all the time. Matter of fact, I used to not ride first class at all. And I agree, totally agree. But when I rode first class, I kind of enjoyed it. And I said, okay, well, if this is what I want in retirement, I definitely want to invest for income, because there's no sense in leaving money on the table, because most people do leave money on the table, because 99% of the portfolios we examine today, they're leaving money on the table. They're hoping for growth, and growth is the way they're always going to be able to generate income. So I know we've been talking a little bit about goals, and goals are, everybody's got their own goals. I have goals for helping, church or charity. We do quite a bit of that right now. I help my kids and grandkids. I want to bet more likely I can see down the road the writing on the wall. I'm going to be helping them even more. It's always about the bucket list. It's always about the things we want to do. Used to travel to Florida and stay, the month of January. I can't do that, of course, now. Don't have as much time as one time I did. And so all these things I want to do, and it costs money to be able to do those things, and those should be part of your retirement goal, and it really should be funded by income. And so we help people to be able to see that. If you don't leave money on the table, you could actually enjoy that. So with that being said, I want to introduce you to my book that just came out just back in October. About the end of October, came #1 on Amazon just within a week, and it's written by myself, and it talks about income first methods, because income first, growth second is really the proper way to generate income for that stage in life, and we help you to understand how to do that. And I got a free copy for the first 5 callers of today's retirement income source by calling 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. And we'll mail this book out to you if you're one of the first 5 callers, free, no obligation book, 888-930-1080. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the second and third phase. Then we're going to get right into the topic of changing lanes. You're going to find out more here just in a minute, right here on the Retirement Income Source. Welcome to the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks, and this show is sponsored by Sparks Financial Group, a firm right here in the heart of Bluegrass, Lexington, Kentucky. And today we're talking about switching lanes. Well, what I have found in watching successful retirees is that they're really patient and they don't pay too much attention to the noise. I mean, I have clients that pay too much attention to everything. They read everything. They believe everything. And unfortunately, I hate to tell you, not a lot of things you read are necessarily applicable to you. There's always, as I've always thought, not always, I shouldn't say, the word always is absolute, that sometimes the things that we read may or may not actually happen. I mean, here a while back, I had a client that was really adamant that we're going to be switching to digital currency. Now, I do agree that one day, who knows, it may happen. Biblically speaking, we're going to possibly do that, going one world currency, or at least that's how I've understood it. I could be completely wrong about that, but at the end of the day, this was going to happen within the next few weeks. And I said, what are you reading? This is what I mean by the noise. We pay too much attention to things and don't realize that if you read further into the article, people always start off with the bad, and then they can't tell you what their solution is. Well, read on. Read their solution and decide if that's what you want to do. But here's the thing. You can't switch and invest in something that doesn't exist. Yeah, there's cryptocurrency and stuff out there that people are investing in. I'm like Warren Buffett and John Bogle. I'm just not a big fan and investing my hard-earned money into something that I don't know anything about. And most importantly, I got to realize it's a more of a rob Peter, pay Paul type plan. Now, if you want to put $10 or $15 or $20,000 into something like that, go for it. I get it. There's people that's became instant millionaires. But at the end of the day, it's not fundamental to me or fundamentally sound. I want something that I can actually get an income from and own it at the same time. I'm not being closed-minded. It's just I don't agree. So when it comes going back to switching lanes, you want to avoid the noise. But what I have found is the people that actually are successful in retirement and want to have a stress-free retirement, they stick with a plan and they don't switch lanes. In other words, the noise forces them to, maybe I'm in the wrong place here. Maybe I need to be moving over here because I keep hearing about everybody's successes. Keep in mind, most successes are always, to some degree, temporary. You see, when you're in retirement, you're in a phase where you need income, and so you need the right strategy for the right stage of life. And so what better way to have the right strategy to actually invest in the one that fits your philosophy, which is income. That's why we teach people how to be successful in retirement while they were getting growth in retirement. While they were building their assets, they can also get it while they're actually investing for growth-like instruments and creating a paycheck. And you do that by understanding the formula total return equals I plus G. The I in the equation is a return. It's a reliable return. And you can count on it in the next 12 months. Actually, I brought up a statement one time and I showed, and this was Fidelity. We use Fidelity, we use Charles Schwab, and every time somebody brings in a Fidelity statement for us to analyze, maybe with whoever they're getting their advice from, they actually got one page just committed to nothing but just dividends. And what I bring to the client's attention to make a point is it tells you what the next 12 months are going to be. So right now we're in January. So it will say what January's dividend is going to be, and then it goes February, March, April, May, all the way down to December 2025. In other words, they're telling you, if you're looking at the income part of that, whatever that is on the total by the end of the year, end of December, that's how much income that person is going to get. Did you know if that income is only about $16,000 or $18,000, and on $1 million, which is roughly, just less than 2%, and then they're paying out 1%, they've got less than $10,000 coming in, but they tell me they're taking income from this portfolio in excess of that $10,000 a year. Okay, what does that tell you? That means they are basically selling positions to come up with the rest. If you're one of those that don't want to sell positions, in other words, you want to get that $15,000 or $20,000 up to more like $50,000+, then I want to get a report in your hand. And actually, this is something that we do for people that call in on the radio. It's a consultation with myself. a free consultation with myself where we do a retirement risk report analysis to show you, are you getting the income you need? Because if you are not getting the income, you may run the risk of running out of money. It's a great commission report to be able to help you to see that. And that may start the process of helping you to kind of get your mindset what we mean by getting income. But this report is all it is it tells you what a proprietary report that we use to give to our clients to help them to understand what real income is versus income they're not getting, or I should say money that they're leaving on the table. And you can get this report if you call 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. And we will mail this to your email at whichever you prefer. Again, 888-930-1080. You're listening to the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks, and today we're talking about switching lanes. And what do I mean by switching lanes? I'm going to elaborate more and more on that in this show. Hopefully it makes sense. You see, we're all guilty of this. They say in hindsight, it's called confirmation bias. We look back, and when things are going well, we think that things are always going to go well. And when things are not going well, we have a tendency to think that things are going to be worse. And we a lot of times invest our money that way. That's the reason why the Dalbar Institute, which is an institute that actually researches investors. And I'm going to give you a prime example, and I'm going to go back to the 80s and 90s bull market, more like in the 90s. The average investor made less than 6% based on the Dalbar Institute. What does that mean? Well, by comparison, if they just left things alone, didn't get caught up in the noise, didn't switch lanes or anything, they would have easily probably made anywhere between 15 to 17%. But what happens is the emotions gets in the way. So we look back, and if things are going well, we stay in because we don't know any better. And because we're really not investing for income, we're just investing for hopefully to see our balances go up in value. Well, see, retirement shouldn't always be about watching your balances. It should be about what that balance is providing you, called income. Just like if you look at a $1 million eightplex building that you got 8 rental properties and you're generating $50,000 a year in net income, you're not going around and doing appraisals on a monthly basis or even a daily basis on that $1 million eightplex because you don't worry about it. You're not thinking about the real estate value going up or going down because you know over time it's going to go up. You're just okay with collecting that $50,000 a year because you need that. That's more important. That takes care of the now, the present. That way you don't have to worry about the future because the future takes care of itself. Well, believe it or not, we always have when it comes to our money, we have a tendency, and we're all guilty of this, including myself, of looking at our balances. And, that's the reason why we talk about investing for income, because, if you constantly listen to your friends or who they're using and they're telling you, they're making money, and maybe you're in a conservative-like portfolio and you're not. You're afraid you're missing out. Well, you may be in a better situation than them because when the markets go down, they're in let's just do a comparison. When you're in growth, the pendulum swings wide. What do I mean? Let's just look at a clock. A clock, you got 9 o'clock position, and you got 3 o'clock position. 9 o'clock is going forward. 3 o'clock is going backwards. Well, the markets can go up 30 or 40% in a given year, and they also can go down 30+% in a given year. So which one of those side of the pendulum do you want to be on or what you want to avoid if it was to occur, but yet you thought you were in something that was growth, not planning for the worst case scenario. So you see, most people don't want to be in something that they are going to be very nervous about and stressed out over. And so There's nothing wrong with having growth, but you should leave it there and leave it alone. It shouldn't be something you should be spending in the present tense. So with that being said, if you want to know more about income first methods, in other words, the methods that our clients use, I actually committed everything into a book called The Retirement Income Shift, How to Get the Most Mileage Out of Your Money. It's written by myself, and it was Amazon bestseller and still is today, 3+ months later, and it talks again about income first methods. You will get get growth if you're focusing on income first, because you're not selling the farm to get the income. Just live on the crops. That's what we teach people to do. That way you don't have to focus on the balance or get appraisals all the time. And I got a free copy for the first 5 callers of today's Retirement Income Show by calling 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. And we'll mail this out to you if you're one of the first 5 callers. Free, no obligation book, 888-930-1080. You're listening to the Retirement Income Source with Tim Sparks. I'll be right back. You're locked on to the Retirement Income Source with Tim Sparks, and today's show is sponsored by Sparks Financial Group, a financial firm right here in the heart of the Bluegrass, Lexington, Kentucky. Our firm is consistent of 4 employees. Everybody's unique in their own way. Now that's just 4 here locally. I'm backed by a 100-employee company in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, who actually helps facilitate a lot of things behind the scenes, because I can't be everything to everybody. So that I'd rather have other people that does specificities in different areas to be able to provide the final product, which is investing for income in interest and dividends. In other words, that's our motto. We invest for income. We have 2 key analysts that really makes all the decisions on behalf of our clients. Now, why is it that you want an analyst? Now, this is a 6+ figure income. This is why most local firms typically that maybe have their own trading internally or whatever right there in their own office won't spend this kind of money, because this is a very expensive employee, because these people are it's like hiring a surgeon. They're not going to spend money on the surgeon, and neither will they spend money on an analyst, but the analyst is the right person to be able to give people the right advice when it comes to investing for the purpose of income. Why? Because they're on the inside. They have experience, anywhere between 20, 25 years, maybe even 30 years. They have a track record. They know a little bit about it. In other words, they got experience, and not only that, they got the right tools. It takes you have to spend well over $100,000 a year just to have terminals and stuff to be able to do trading on. It gives the person the right resources, so that way they can help our clients make the right decisions. Well, that's exactly what we do. But that's not where it stops. That's just the defensive and the offensive part of our team that are on the inside. In other words, they're not out giving advice like financial advisors are. They don't have time to be able to manage your money like they should, a financial advisor. That's the reason why I chose not to go that route. I want somebody on the inside, okay? Because they see everything what's going on. They know what companies you should own, and know what companies, most importantly, you shouldn't own. You see, when you own mutual funds, all those companies that you shouldn't own, that are losing and bringing down the fund's performance, if you knew they were in there, you would like to get rid of them. But you don't know they're in there, but they're in there and they're bringing down the performance. You can, when you have an analyst that's all they specialize in, this is not an amateur world. This is a world that people, they're good at what they do. They're in the top 1% of 1% of what they do. And so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for somebody that's really, really good in income, that's bonds and bond-like instruments, and dividend-paying stocks, which is more of an income and plus growth type of strategy. But we also have other people that does other things within our office and within our company itself to bring the final product, which is invest for income. You need that. I mean, there's 500 companies in the S&P 500. You know, if you own the top 10, you're not going to be in the income-producing investment companies in the first place. You know, that's Apple, Amazon, Nvidia that makes that top 10 list. They're not an income instrument. They're a growth-only instrument, okay? And so in the last year and a half, 20 months or so, those instruments have really been pulling the whole train of those 500 companies and driving up the prices or driving up the values. And that's made a big difference in the market. Well, keep in mind, if you took those top 10 or 15 companies out of the S&P 500, the S&P 500 may have averaged what, maybe 6 or 7%. You put them back in, the S&P could have averaged 12 or 15%. So that's the difference. And that's what happens. Always, historically, you got your top performers. But unfortunately, if you look at the Dow, for example, there was 30 companies that made up the Dow, and there still is today. But back in the 1899, 1900, there wasn't as many companies as there are today in the United States. But back then, there was 30 companies, top companies. These were the upper echelon. Guess how many companies are on that list today? Still, one. That's it. So imagine 29 companies out of 30, pretty much 90+% of the companies are not even in the ball game no more. What that tells you that you need to diversify, right? That's the reason we do diversify. Well, here's something that I have actually seen with my own two eyes. Hopefully you might be able to benefit from this. There's typically 20 to 25 mutual funds in a particular portfolio or exchange traded funds. It really doesn't matter. I can go to something very simple to use. You probably know how to get there too. It's called Yahoo Finance. They got others out there. I just use Yahoo, but they got others. You can do this. Morningstar is too complicated for people. They're not going to want to do that, even though it's got its own use. But you go to Yahoo Finance, and if I look up the top 20, look at all these funds, what I have found is people own, let's just pick 20 funds, people own the same companies 9 times. In other words, almost half the funds, no joke, are basically in these companies. That means there's too much weight in companies that actually, whenever you go back to 2022, took a big loss. Go back in 2008 financial crisis, took a big loss. So in other words, if you got a lot of weight, matter of fact, we call that overlapping. You don't want to take that unnecessary risk. So you see, that's the reason why I wanted more of a custom portfolio, more transparency, so that way, if you want to own that company, that's good, but you only need to own them once, not 9 times in in 9 different funds. So I got a commission report I want to get in your hands called Why Investing in Mutual Funds Could Jeopardize Your Retirement Plans. And just like I elaborated on about a minute ago, you don't want to own all the same companies. Diversification means really it should be more like asset allocation. You need to be in different sectors and not just in one primary sector and owning the same companies 9 different times. And this commission report can be yours if you call 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. And we will mail it or email it, whichever you prefer. Again, that's 888-930-1080. This is the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks, and today we are talking about switching lanes. What do I mean by switching lanes? We're all guilty of this. You know, when markets are doing well, we have a tendency to want all growth. When markets are down, we want to avoid the punishing losses. And again, I elaborated on this a little while ago. Dalbar study, the point of the research of monitoring the emotions of investors in the 90s, when it was nothing but bull market, double-digit returns, people were making 2/3 less than the market. Why? Because their emotions get in the way. Because we really don't know We don't know how to control it, so we think getting out is the best thing to do when we probably shouldn't have, and getting in when we should have already gotten in a lot sooner. So we miss the opportunities more so than not, and that's what the study is trying to make a point. Yes, I get it. Nobody wants to lose what they have. But the thing is, though, we equally like to make all we can too. But, the only way you can get both and have your cake and eat it too is invest for income. It allows you to have the discipline to stay the course and don't switch lanes. Think about this for a moment. You're on the highway. You're on the interstate. And I don't know how many, every time I travel, I go through Atlanta, you got 8 or 10 lanes on one side and 8 or 10 lanes. It's a little stressful almost every time I go down that, go through there, because you got to watch the signs, right? Or you may wind up going downtown Atlanta if you're not careful. But that's not the point. When the lanes get backed up, what do we have a tendency to do when we see 1 or 2 lanes moving faster than the one we're in that's moving too slow? You got it. We want to switch and get over there. And once we get over there, I don't know about you, but it's happened to me, all of a sudden the lane I just got out of started moving forward. Well, believe it or not, the stock market is exactly the same way. All roads go to the same destination. If I'm going to Florida and I got to go through Atlanta, I might as well just relax and be patient and stick with maybe 1 or 2 lanes and not try to move in and out. It's the same way it is the discipline we need when it comes to investing in stocks. Because at the end of the day, we don't know which stock's going to be the winner and which stock all of a sudden is going to start losing. We can switch lanes and all of a sudden that stock is not doing well, then we're going to regret. And I hear this all the time when we meet with people. That's not what retirement is about. Retirement is about somebody that's watching your money. That's the reason why we have analysts that does this, not financial advisor. I don't care what kind of credentials they have, don't mean anything. They're just doing nothing but, the efficient frontiers, Monte Carlo analysis. I even had a client tell me one day, and this was, I think just a couple of days ago, that they left their advisor to move their money to us. And so they want to be polite and tell the advisor that they moved on. Well, the guy obviously got mad. And he said, we could have done the same thing. Well, here's what the client told him. And it's exactly what I told him probably the response would be. Well, the markets always go up, and we had you perfectly positioned because right now, in hindsight, in the last couple of years, the markets have been doing well. So he thinks he's doing his due diligence and helping people to stay in those faster lanes, not realizing that those lanes are going to eventually slow down and the other lanes are going to start picking up. And at the end of the day, the portfolio that he designed for them was selling principal, and so they were basically giving up about 70% of their principal each and every month of their own money that they saved, the principal, and to generate income, and only 30% came from real income. You want 100% of your portfolio generating income at all times. Why? Because you don't know when you're going to need it all. Even if you're one of those that say, well, I don't need that kind of income that you're providing. That's okay. Too much income becomes a big good problem to have. I'd rather be in retirement and knowing I always have too much income coming in, even though I don't need it, because what do you do with unused income? That's right, it reinvests. In other words, you can dollar cost average while you are in retirement. You're doing things that most people can't do. They don't have that luxury to do because they're not generating income. They're always selling principal, and they're going to continue to do that and for the next 20, 25, or 30 years. And that's assuming that there's no downturns in the market that are really major. If you have a downturn in the market of 40% loss and the recovery takes 4 to 7 years, I don't know about you, that's a long time to be spending money knowing you're selling up to as much as twice as many shares. That's not a retirement plan, because you're not really geared for retirement. You're geared for running out of money and you don't even realize it. So if you want to invest for income first, in other words, Why not just keep the eightplex, the $1 million eightplex, and just collect rent? That's what we help people to do. And you can do that with interest and dividends. A lot of people sometimes wonder whenever we talk about income, well, I'm reducing my risk. Yeah, I get it. I'm getting more income. But at the end of the day, I'm not really keeping up with inflation. Well, if you start selling shares, you're not going to keep up with inflation either. It's kind of the necessary evil that you have to choose. Well, if you want to learn more about income first methods, then I would like to invite you to take advantage of our free book, The Retirement Income Shift, How to Get the Most Mileage Out of Your Money. This is written by myself, became Amazon's bestseller first week after release, and still is today in 3 or 4 categories. And you can get a free copy for the first 5 callers by calling 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. And we'll mail it out to you. Again, if you're one of the first 5 callers, free, no obligation book, 888-930-1080. When we come back, I'm going to give you an example of what switching lanes how it can affect you. We'll explain more of that here on the Retirement Income Source. Welcome to the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks, and today we are talking about switching lanes. This is Sparks Financial Group. We're a firm right here in the heart of the bluegrass. What I have found when watching successful retirees, 99% of the retirees are not doing this, only about 1%, is they're very patient and don't pay too much attention to the noise, but they also invest their money correctly for the right stage in life. And they don't switch lanes. That's the most critical part. Why? Because if income is your strategy, then you need to be in more income-like instruments. Not deviate and go into growth, because now you switch lane, just like I alluded to earlier, and it winds up slowing down. Then all of a sudden you're going to regret that, and all along you messed up your income plan. Now you're back to selling principal at a higher level. So if you want to enjoy retirement just like you were when you were working, always, you have to be intentional. You do that by learning the formula total return equals I plus G, because this is the formula that got you to retirement, and more importantly, it's the formula, if understanding the difference between the I and the G, that would get you through retirement stress-free. The I is what I'm talking about. Why? Because it's the reliable side of the 2 components. Growth comes in clumps. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does. But when it comes to growth, averages can be much higher in some years. I've had people tell me, well, I made 23% or 31% in the last 12 months. All they're doing in hindsight is they're thinking about all the good times. They're not even thinking about financial crisis or 2000 dot-com bubble or 2022 or the pandemic or 2011, 2018. I can give you all these times. Every time gives people reason to think, oh, I think I'm in the worst place to be, because they switched lanes or stayed in that lane, and then they regret it because they thought growth was the way to go. They wind up firing their advisor because their advisor don't know how to explain that it's just not working. So they may tell them, hey, you just need to wait, it'll all come back, and it usually does, but at the expense of your spending your principal, because you still needed income, and therefore you have to either cut back or you have to spend the principal and run the risk of running out of money. People don't want to do that. They want to actually have a plan in place to be able to minimize or even eliminate or avoid the most cannibalizing situation for anybody in retirement is to spend their principal. Keep in mind, you're wanting to get the most mileage out of your money. You do that by actually investing for income, interest, and dividends. But if this makes sense to you, I get it. You don't want to switch lanes and miss out on growth, but how much more growth are we going to get? Anytime you have really 2 good years on growth, I'm talking about the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, you don't typically have 3 years in a row like that. Typically it starts fading, and those companies are much more overvalued. In other words, some of those companies are not going to do as well, so holding on to something just for the point of trying to get a little bit more growth, and then all of a sudden you're wrong, and then what are you going to do? Well, you got to keep in mind income is still the part that you need to solve because you still need it. And you're in the wrong instrument. So that means you got to sell them at the wrong time. But I got a commission report I want to get in your hand where you can enjoy getting paychecks while still in the stock market. But you have to do that with stocks that give you paychecks called dividends. And the commission report is called Investing for Income in the Stock Market. You can get this report by calling 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. And we'll mail this to you or email it, whichever you prefer. Again, 888-930-1080. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks, and today we are talking about switching lanes. What do I mean by switching lanes? Most people don't know what lane to be in at all times. So looking back, we can tell you how would you like to have been in NVIDIA the last couple of years? The last 3 years, maybe the last 10 or 15 years. But there was times even on an NVIDIA that it didn't do nothing. It actually still took a loss. I'm not knocking it. It doesn't mean it's a bad stock. It's something you have to kind of buy and hold on to. It's kind of like gold. It's shiny. Gold is. You can go by and rub it a little bit. It's a little pet rock, but in theory, gold, you basically have to sell if you want to generate anything even out of gold. So I want to talk a little bit about a particular client I've been working with now for about 4 years. And we have a husband and wife here that has quite a bit of money. They're about $5 million. She has 2, he has 3. We're managing her 2 with dividend paying stocks and also some bond and bond-like instruments. They want growth and income too, but they pay a lot of attention to the noise, to the markets, reading information. There's nothing wrong with that. Learning is great, but sometimes the things that are out there are really just not even worth reading about, but people still do it because they think that somebody's got the magic potion, the silver bullet. Well, nobody has the best of anything when it comes right down to it, and the wealthy keep getting wealthier by being at not necessarily always the right place at the right time, but hiring the right people. My dad, I remember at one time he used to tell me you got to have the right banker, the right CPA, and the right attorney. Well, that to a degree, that's true. I understood what he meant by that, him being a business owner. But you talk about, what I'm talking about is an ideal case for switching lanes. The wife has been with us for 4 years, and she has consistently grown her portfolio. She has $2 million now, but at the time she had about 1.3. So she's gained about 700,000. And in 2020, about half of 2023, she was making more money than her husband, who went with a growth play with another advisor. And that's a very well-known company, one of the largest out there in America today. Well, during that time frame, whenever I was doing meetings, she was really singing praises, kudos, and all that right there. And he was over there about ready to fire this guy. Why? Because he was losing money. If you take $3 million, it drops down to $2 million. I don't blame them. Why? Because they really don't understand investments, or they think that, or they were sold a bill of goods that growth is always going to happen, which is not true. You see, you got to be able to invest also for the right amount of risk that you're willing to take if you're going to be in the market. If it's too risky and you're going to lose a lot, you probably need to be changing. And you need to put yourself in a position with a philosophy that matches what you're trying to accomplish. It's not necessarily the risk, it's also the risk that you're taking. Are you aggressive? Are you moderate aggressive? Are you moderate or maybe even too conservative? You got to marry all 4 of them in order to be able to have inflation and income at the same time and be diversified. But if income is what you're trying to solve, it's going to be very hard to do that in a growth play. So this guy wound up firing his advisor. She's over there, tickled to death, and he's a little, you can tell that he was envy of, she was doing well, and he started talking about sending some money our way. And so here's my point. He could have stayed, if he stayed there a little longer, he probably would have made that back. But I don't know when. And he doesn't know when, because keep in mind, we don't know the next day. And that's what I told both of them when we were on in that appointment. What we're doing is we got a custom portfolio made for his wife that she and he are going to reach the same destination. Only difference is our portfolio is more stress-free than his. The pendulum swings too much. It goes from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock too quickly. That means he's got too much in growth. While simultaneously trying to get income, that's not a good plan. So we've come up at the end of our show, and I would like to be able to talk more about that. I don't have time anymore. We've only got an hour to cover this information on switching lanes. Who knows, I may bring up a little bit more of that in the next show. But if you want to learn more about income first methods, in other words, what she did to have consistent growth and income versus what he did where it was too spurty. The markets are irrational, though. You can't control them. If you want to know more about income first, growth second, you want to take a look at our book. In other words, how to make income in a down market or an up market by using defensive income strategies. This book is Amazon bestseller, Retirement Income Shift, Getting the Most Mileage Out of Your Money. And this book is available for the first 5 callers of today's retirement income source. Call 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080, and we'll mail this book out to you. Again, first 5 caller, free, no obligation book, 888-930-1080. We appreciate you listening to our show today. We hope you learned some stuff about switching lanes. There's a lot to this than in just a 1-hour setting. And again, reach out to our office anytime you want to and schedule a time where you can get a little bit more specific with your situation. But meanwhile, be safe out there. We appreciate you joining us here on the Retirement Income Source. I'm Tim Sparks. We'll meet again next week at the same time.